Can you imagine your life where money is your friend, working with you to achieve all your dreams and desires? If you struggle seeing money as your friend, then join Kathy Cook Noble, financial advisor and educator on understanding how your money can work for you. It is possible. Now, here is Financially Speaking with Kathy Cook Noble.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Inspired Choices Network. You are listening to Financially Speaking, and we get together every Monday night and we dissect a financial topic, or we tackle some of the confusion and questions that people have. And I will tell you, almost all the shows that we do come from either a client that's asked me something in my practice, in my day job as a financial advisor and bookkeeper, or from just talking to friends and family at different functions, because somehow it always comes up and they have financial questions for me, especially in these different times that we're going through. And a lot of the time, I take on stuff to answer for them that really is just a confusing question that they don't understand. And like I tell everybody on our show, and I tell my friends, my family, my clients, you really only need to understand your own stuff. It's not important for you to know what happens with the people on CNN and CNBC and in Hollywood and how many yachts they own and what trusts they are monitoring. What you need to understand is your stuff. And I totally believe, 100%, I've always believed, I still believe, I will always believe that you have the ability to understand your own financial situation. And that's what we do here on Financially Speaking. And what we do here on the Inspired Choices Network is we put the whole thing together, not just the financial part of it, but the part where sometimes you need a little bit of help with relationships, or maybe you need a little bit of help with your pets or your kids, or maybe work. Or maybe you're frustrated with the way your life's going, or you don't understand the direction of your life and you need a little bit of support there. And that's where we come in as a network, where we take it all together and we help make all the pieces that are missing or lacking and fill them up to make them your happiest version of yourself. So I always tell people, please reach out and ask the host questions, because every single one on the network is an expert in their particular field, and they're all super approachable and super easy to talk to. And if you want to, if you see something we're missing, because it's possible, it happens, and there's a spot open for a host, which there is, then reach out to Christine. She is our fearless leader here at the Inspired Choices Network. She is also the host of the Inspired Choices Network show. So I know she's captive every week on her show, and you can message her in the chat room, or you can call her or email her, and she will answer all your questions. And don't tell her, because I don't want it to go to her head, but she's actually really, really good at guiding people like a numbers person like me to do something that would be on TV and radio, which is absurd and unheard of for people like me, but she's very good at walking you through that and guiding you through that. So reach out and talk to her if you have any questions as well about either joining the network or suggesting topics of hosts and shows. And as every once in a while, I get the opportunity to have guests on our show. And this year, I took a bit of a different approach, because we're going through a different kind of economy. And that economy has to do with a pandemic that we're in well over a year celebrating, I guess. I don't think celebrating is the right word, but we're doing it anyway. We're all living in it. And the part I found was a lot of, in my day practice in the financial services world, that a lot of small businesses were really struggling and confused and really having a hard time with, there's different industries. Now, there's been some industries that actually have done really well, believe it or not. But for the most part, a lot of small businesses are really, really struggling. And it scares me when I see the numbers of businesses that aren't reopening and that have closed permanently. And when I see it hovering around that 50% mark, it makes me really sad, because small business in my world and my life, in my opinion, is the backbone of the economy. And I don't just say that because it's 70% of GDP, closing in on 75, 80%. I don't say that because they're the largest employer in Canada. I say that because I've been involved in one. Our family's been one for over 94 years. And I feel that they're real people. And make no mistake, the big companies are real people too that work there. But when we talk about small business, in my mind, we're talking about the family, the mom and the dad that they've gone all in on their business, and they're working 15, 20 hours a day, 7 days a week to get it going. And a lot of the time they're not taking a paycheck, especially in the first year when they're getting things going. So I started a series and we did on small business and how to highlight some of the challenges and some of the successes. We've had some owners on that are successes. We've had some business owners on who have struggled. We talked about how the pandemic has affected them and different programs that are available and different things to look out for. And then we moved into a series on financial literacy because I know it's not financial literacy month here in Canada, but it was in the United States, and it's always financial literacy month for me anyway. So we moved into a series with the youth and investing, and we've been talking to individuals about how they're investing, when they got started, and why they got started. Because a lot of people, they don't talk about money. To me, I'm like, I can't believe that, but it's true. Money is not the topic of everyday conversation. And today is no different. I have a very special guest, and I'm just going to be a tiny bit cocky because I know his nickname is Besh, and I'm just going to go ahead and call Brent Besh. We have Brent Beshara with us today, and for the rest of the night, he's going to be known as Besh to me because I'm going to assume we're going to be friends. So like all his friends, I'm going to call him Besh. Besh is a global citizen, a student of life, an explorer, a scientist, and a firehose philosopher. He's had 24 years of Canadian military service as a Special Forces Navy bomb disposal diver, which is absolutely mind-blowing and amazing to me, and all the respect in the world to him. It came with a sincere sacrifice for Besh, though. It cost him mentally, physically, and cost him his first marriage. So since retiring in 2007, Besh has created for himself a lifestyle of researching, understanding, and applying what he calls the application of life. And this consists of many diverse modalities, from ancient tribal wisdom to current quantum understandings to extreme cold exposure, which I am so looking forward to hearing about, because you guys are in for a treat when you hear his story. This world understanding has allowed him to get to know the truth of himself, which helps free him from the perceived dramas of life. And he is absolutely what all of us need to hear and talk to and hear how he did it, because it's exactly how we're going to help each other through all this stress and drama and pandemic that we're going through. What he wants for himself is what he wants for everyone. Therefore, he feels compelled to share his personal method of understanding that continues to help him and can help others clear their vexations and live a life truly worth living. Besh, I am so happy to welcome you to the show. You are long overdue. Thank you so much for joining us all the way from the East Coast.
Yeah.
So for those of us in Canada, we know when I say the East Coast, we are out in Newfoundland. For those of you listening in the United States and around the world, I'm in the central part of Canada, and Besh is way out on the East Coast in a beautiful part called Newfoundland. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It's quite a pleasure.
So I'm going to start with if you don't mind, I mean, I have a bunch of questions I do want to ask you, but maybe you can just share a little bit about yourself and how you got to where you are, because you have had an extraordinary life experience in many different ways. So yeah, just share with us a little bit about how you got here.
Certainly. Again, just like you said in the intro, that was a great intro, Kathy. Thank you very much. Again, I served in the military, in the Special Forces as a Navy bomb disposal diver, and just like that, it does come at a cost. You know, it is a young person's sport. And so, you know, I went to the military doctor, psychologist, to say, hey, I need some help with this. So instead of giving me tips, tricks, or tools, he prescribed pills, you know. And then when I left the military, I wanted to get off those pills, and I went to my civilian doctor and said, hey, I'd like to get off these. And she said, Brent, a lot of people try to get off them, but they usually go back on them. So you should just stay on them. So in that, when I told my bride, Kellyanne, that, she lost it and said, what? Not even an exit strategy? So just in my own heart and intuition, I got off the meds. I took up walking in nature because I couldn't run anymore, just due to the physical ailments that came from the military service, right? And I just took up walking in nature. We started to eat better. I took up yoga, hashtag yoga saved my life. I meditated, learned how to meditate. I took up breath work, and then since then I've took up the Whim Hof method, which is the gradual cold exposure of sitting in icy cold ponds for minutes at a time. And so the journey from the military has been great. I give a lot of tribute to my bride, Kellyanne, who basically firemen carried me out of my military service, right? Just having a great partner was able to help me, sort out this stuff. Because when you have all those great experiences, we didn't have time to really sort them out. We're always on the go. So it's when you get out of that military service after 24 years, all those experiences, events, and emotions that you have come bubbling to the surface. So luckily I had a great partner. The meditation helped out, and just started to research myself. And being a student of life, I just took up learning about the application of life and the mechanism of our perception, that our thoughts lead to our feelings lead to our actions, and our actions lead to our results. So I just kept studying it, and then I figured out how to create for myself a life worth living. And so now that I'm in a position of life that I am living the life that I truly want to live, I just want to help my friends, family, neighbors around the world to just truly find within themselves, to be able to clear the old emotions, events, and experiences, to be able to process them naturally, because our feelings are like flatulence, better out than in, right? But they're no different than a burp, shit, sneeze, fart, laugh, orgasm. It's a process of the body, like digestion, circulation, or respiration. So when we understand that it's a process, that we need to be present to these emotions that have been unprocessed. It's like hanging on to a number two. If you hang on to a number two too long, it's going to impact your experience of the present moment. Feelings are no different. If we have unprocessed feelings, experiences, and events that get trapped in our tissues, bones, fascia, nerves, joints, and muscles, to be processed, but we haven't learned how. And that's what I'm a little disappointed in the psychologists at the time. They didn't have the tips, tricks, or tools to teach me how to, hey, why don't you start walking in nature, learn to meditate. But now that I've learned this stuff for myself, I try to share it at every opportunity.
That's incredible. And actually, it's an amazing summary, because you covered an awful lot of your life, which took a lot longer than that couple minutes to tell me about it. So tell me when your journey started, because it didn't start, I don't think, you tell me, I don't think it started the very day you left military service. No. When did you start the journey to realize that you needed more support than what you're getting? You needed to figure out a better way to do it.
Yeah, great question. For me, it was when I got out of the military. I took 3 months off, and just because at that point I was working on my knife company. I'd invented the strongest knife tip in the world. I call it the Besh Wedge, and I was going to trade shows. So that gave me something to really sink into and work on. I was going to SHOT Show in Vegas and the Blade Show in Atlanta, and so that took months of preparation to be able to show up and display your wares, your designs, and such to these knife companies. But I also went online for 3 months and just what's out there in the world for me to do, because when you have an infinite amount of options, it can be sometimes overwhelming. I just found I was really drawn to the poets, prophets, professors, painters, physicists, politicians, padres, priests, parsons, preachers, performers, playwrights, philanthropists, podiatrists, principals, pirates, and philosophers. And that's what I figured out in all that. That's what I am, a philosopher, which is a lover of knowledge. So I love knowledge. I instructed most of my military career, so I love instructing. I like doing it. I like the feedback from the group. I like that live feeling. But also, I just saw that we're standing on the shoulders of giants, that all these cats from time immemorial have written down their successes. They've just told their stories. So through those cosmic breadcrumbs and cosmic nuggets, I just saw that by applying their simple adages or their aphorisms or their mantras, that I was able to find for myself, oh my gosh, it works. Be still and know thyself. That what we put out to the world is what we get back. What we focus on, we do attract into our lives. And what we resist persists. So I just found by these tenets that I just started to get my own feedback from the world, from life, from the people I meet each day. How am I doing? Well, I just have to go out into the world and meet a few people and see how am I being received in the world? So that's what I found for myself. And this is it's only my best guess, but don't take my word for it. But that's what I've just found, is that for myself, that just going out into the world, I'm getting the feedback, right? Of, am I being a good person? And so I'm just finding that seems to really work for me. And again, but I know that if it can work for me and I can create this life worth living, then I know it can help others. And so that's what I try to do, is at, where possible, share this message that we can do it for ourselves, but only we can do it for ourselves, because I can't do it for you. We got to get up out of bed, put our clothes on, brush our teeth, make our bed, et cetera, et cetera. So there is a path to our peace of mind. There is a path to our understanding of ourselves. Warning, there might be a little bit of work involved, but once we truly commit to that path is relatively short, the more, we commit. And so that's it, because the accomplishments of our goals are assured the moment we commit ourselves. And so, it does take a bit of work, but once we truly commit, it does start to happen, and we don't have to you don't have to bite it off all in one big chunk, but just, it is a daily commitment to just doing better than we did yesterday, right?
Absolutely.
Versus giving in, for me, I didn't want to give my power away to pills anymore. I needed to do it for myself.
Exactly. So we're up, believe it or not, we're up to our first break already of the night. We're going to take our first break. First of all, I have to say, I think My Best Guess might be the name of your title of your book that you maybe haven't read yet. And I also want to talk to you about how your wife played a part, because I know Kellyanne was a huge part in it. And I do have to give a tiny bit of a plug, because I'm a bit of a fan. She's an amazing artist, just for everybody out there. And if you just look over Besh's left shoulder, you'll see some of her artwork. She is phenomenal. So you should check out Kellyanne's artwork, because she is pretty cool. So I just have to give her a little bit of plug, because I had the opportunity to talk to her a month or so ago, and it was actually quite enjoyable, and I'm hoping she'll come back. So we're going to take our first break of the night, and we're here with Besh all night, and we're going to get some great insight and philosophy from him on how we can get through this pandemic as an individual, how we get through it together as a community, as a country, and frankly, as a whole global commitment, because we're in it together. I want to talk to him about how the military service that helped get him started also helped to cause some of his issues and PTSD, and how he got over that. I want to talk to him about if the service, how they always say some things are a blessing and a curse at the same time. And that's what I want to ask him as well. Plus, he's got a phenomenal entrepreneurial story that I have to talk about. So don't go anywhere. We're going to be here with Brent Beshara, known as Besh to his friends, all night. You are listening to Financially Speaking on the Inspired Choices Network. We will be right back.
Too many of us get caught up in the unreal lives of reality television and complete to acquire stuff, which is setting us up to accumulate lots of debt. We're scared, confused, and don't know who to talk to. By tuning into Financially Speaking radio show with financial advisor and educator Kathy Cook Noble, you'll learn tips you can use to improve your financial health, which in turn can improve your overall health and make for a very happy life. Live a life you can afford and enjoy. It is possible. Listen for Financially Speaking radio show every Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 3 p.m. Central, 2 p.m. Mountain, and 1 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. Are you a subject matter expert? Are you here to share your expertise with an audience waiting to hear from you in only the way you can deliver? Are you ready to have your voice amplified across the airwaves? Inspired Choices Network has a global radio platform streaming to millions of people across the world. Professionally produced and supported by an accomplished team every step of the way, you can broadcast from anywhere in the world, knowing your voice matters, and we ensure it is delivered with ease and efficiency. Eager to hear your message, the world awaits. Contact us today to become an Inspired Choices Network radio host. Email become a host at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. This is the Financially Speaking Show with financial advisor and educator Kathy Cook Noble. To participate in the program, join our live studio audience in our chat room at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email by sending to Kathy@bookkeepplus.ca. Now back to the program.
Welcome back, everyone. You are listening to Financially Speaking on the Inspired Choices Network. I am your host, Kathy Cook Noble, and my very special guest is Brent Beshara, which known to most of his friends as Besh. I think actually, from what I hear, Brent, that Brent isn't even a known name by you. It's just Besh that they call you. So we're going to call him Besh, and I'm excited to have him here tonight. I want to share with all our listeners some exciting news about the Inspired Choices Network as well, because we have our very own mobile app now. For those of you who don't know Christine, our Inspired Choices Network host, as well as our network owner, she is a very hardworking lady. She's actually a lot, but she's also a lot of fun. So don't mistake her hard work for fun. And she's very, very proactive and technologically advanced. And she has made this a beautiful, beautiful project come to life. And the app is fantastic. It's easy to use, easy to navigate. Download it from Apple or the Android app. You can listen to it live. You can enjoy all the podcasts and TV episodes wherever you are now. It's easy to find us. And, we're on over 200 platforms as it is, but the app makes it just that much easier. Join the chat room too. You can participate in the show, any of our shows, not just mine, but you're always welcome to participate. You click on the shows, scroll to the bottom, and you click chat room. It's available also on the app. And if you check it out, it's for free, which is one of our favorite words in finance, especially when it comes to taxes. So tax-free is always my favorite term, and now free app is a great term too. And not to be outdone because of Christine's fun nature, there's a contest, and you can join it as well. And all the details, including the gifts, are on the contest page on the inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. So check it out. You won't regret it. And we've been talking to Besh tonight. And Besh, before we went to break, you gave us a really nice summary of how you look at life now, I guess we'll say. But how did you get to where you see the military as, did it help propel you into this, and some of the training help you with your thinking as it is now? Because I know some of the military causes some of the, not just in like the mental and the physical issues that you have to work on when you come out, but did some of the military training also help you, I guess, cure yourself or work on yourself in that way?
Great question, Kathy. I just got to say that for those 24 years, I got to serve with the most amazing men and women I've ever met. Just really tuned in, turned on, switched on human beings, and a real privilege to serve with these people. So like the military gives you this sense, and again, I got to serve in those elite military units, and you can only serve in those elite military units if you're physically capable and mentally sharp enough to do so. So with my getting out of the military, that military mindset, did give me the sense of, right, once I set my mind to the yoga or learning how to meditate or walking more, I had that commitment from the military, that gave me that sense of that. If it's going to be, it's up to me type of commitment. And so I just kept following that. But also when I started to prepare for my trade shows with my knife invention, that military mindset, because you can't win the largest trade shows in the world where there's 110 knife companies there and you're having 10 meetings a day for 3 days. So 30 to 35 meetings over a 3-day weekend, or 40 to 45 in Vegas. And meeting one is just as important as meeting 45. And these are companies, they're the owners, the CEOs, the head of marketing, VP of sales, and things like that. You can't wing that. So when you show up on day 1 to day 4, all those meetings are very important. So and that takes planning. So I planned, with basically military precision to see 10 companies a day, because the best way to protect your intellectual property is not by playing close hold with a patent. It's by letting everyone know that this is your intellectual property. And how you do that is by meet and greet. You have your non-disclosures, and you present your designs and inventions to these people firsthand. And so I really enjoyed doing that. And so for 10 years, I did 2 shows a year, and we'd see these companies and then confirm designs, and just to let them know, let the knife industry know. So in that time, I've approached over 150 knife companies, Yeah, and that's it. That's a commitment, though, right? And so when you have something that you're either passionate about or fearful of losing, that's a great motivator to get out there and beat your feet and such. So the military gave me that sense of if it is to be, it's up to me. And then I was able to apply that to those areas of my life. Plus now, a lot of techniques, especially with logistics and operations, Kellyanne and I apply to our art business. Every Monday we have a Monday mash and a Monday, and we go through all the logistics and operations of our art business and our knife company to make it happen, right? And so again, it is a commitment, but we view all those responsibilities that are on our side of the tennis net to be able to get those balls over the net, to be able to perpetuate and continue our process, to really streamline our businesses, to systemify things so that it becomes more and more simplified. And that's just, so a lot of the techniques we use, I did get from the military in the commitment to keep reproducing your success.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned Kellyanne, that's Besh's wife, for those of you just joining us. You met, and I know she was a huge part in, a lot of the parts that we've talked about and we're going to talk about. How did she come on board with helping you and your journey to getting to where you are today? How is her support and her role? What is her role in that?
Well, indispensable, really. She's such a lovely person and strong. We're both allies. And so we both know that we each have our roles, we each have our strengths. And love, really, her love of me and being able to sit through the pain that I was releasing and the stresses and all the, being responsible for people's lives as a bomb tech, and as a diving supervisor. You're just happy when the team comes home, right? And so when you release all the emotions after 24 years of service, all that stuff comes up, stuff you didn't have time to process. She was just really kind, compassionate, and I was just there for me, and having a friend like that, just to be able to talk it out, and am I going crazy? Is this a reality kind of thing? And then also supporting my joy, supporting my joy of going to these trade shows, supporting my joy of walking more, doing more yoga, things like that. Let me get up at 2-3 in the morning, not letting me, but just like not knowing that I'm just going to get up and do yoga for a couple hours and then come back to bed kind of thing. So just very supportive of those lifestyle choices. So again, yeah, she fireman carried me out of the military.
That's awesome. And I think it's great for people to hear how important it is that your partner is supportive, and even if they don't 100% understand or been through the same thing you've been through, the support, I think, is what really matters. And with that, you and your support of other people, so that helps you to, I think, support other people, and whether you know them or you're related to them, you're friends with them, or you just met them for the first time, that helps you support them in a very positive way. And I do want to ask you about your ritual that you go through now, because you're very heavy into you're very focused, I should say, on the mind, body, spirit, I guess we can call it. And what is your ritual that you go through? What would be your regular day, or what are processes you tell people that they need to, that would be best for them to adapt?
Yeah, great question. Well, for me, because I have the luxury of study, and I've really designed my life to be able to study a lot. So I have a lot of people don't have that time. They're on the M to F, Monday to Friday, 8 to 4, nothing more kind of thing. So when do you have time to really just sink into this material? Well, I've had now since the fall of 2006, the time to really sink into the study of life, the application of life, the mechanism of our perceptions. So for me, I like to get up at, I just feel inspired. So when it's I'll go to bed at 9, 10, or 11, and I'll be up at 1, 2, or 3, or 4 in the morning, and I'll just get up. I don't have insomnia. I just get up and do things. So I get up, I'll read, because I'm reading a lot of different material that I'm studying from around the world. And so I'll get up and read for a bit, then I'll meditate, and then I'll maybe do some breath work, like through the Whim Hof method. And then I'll go back to bed. Then I'll get up and then I'll go for a swim in the pond all year round, like especially when there's ice on it. And I do the cold exposure. I'm a former Whim Hof instructor. I went to Amsterdam and Poland to learn the method. And then now I just share the passion of this understanding, because it is a biological superpower. And then I'll go after that, then I'll go for a walk and and commit to that. Just a lot of, and then in the evening I'll exercise. So while we're watching, a couple hours of the tube, whatever it may be. I'll exercise. I'll just stretch, lift some weights, so it's, and so if I could sum it up, it's just committing a bit to exercise, walking more in nature, learning to meditate, very important, especially in this daily regimen, all of the onslaught of the daily occurrences, the stresses that we're having to deal with. When we be still and know ourselves, even if it's, in my workshops, I share 5 minutes for 5 days. So we just commit to a Monday to Friday practice of sitting still, observing our thoughts, allowing them to guff off, and then we can understand the mechanism ourselves. Like, am I being a total biatch here, or am I being, an asshole, or, am I, being kind and compassionate to my fellow, human kind of thing. So that's just my commitment, is just trying to be a good egg, on a daily basis. Vitamins B, C, and D are very important. Very much so, especially with COVID, vitamin D seems to just eradicate it. That's very important. Yeah, just committing to my personal health. And since I've committed to this cold exposure, the blood tests from my doctor have gotten consistently better over the last 6 years. I get 2 blood tests a year, in the spring and the fall. And that's my indication of how I'm doing. And since like 5-6 years ago, the doctor said, your blood work's you're not diabetic, you're just heading your numbers are heading that way. But that was also the same time I took up the Whim Hof method of breathing and cold exposure. And since then, my blood work's gotten better and better and better. The last Zoom call, she said, your kidneys and organs are great, and you've got the blood of an 18-year-old cheerleader. So that's
nice.
Can't be any happier than that, man.
That's awesome. So actually, your timing's perfect. We're up to our second break of the night, and I have been waiting to talk to you about a lot of things, but I really want to know about the cold exposure stuff. And for those of our listeners, there's something in Canada that people do. It's called the polar bear dip, and it's where they run out in their bathing suits in the very coldest of the cold, and they jump into the water. And that, to some people, that just sounds like a radical idea, but they only do it once a year. So what you're talking about is an entirely different program, because it's actually a program, not just a group jump in the water because it's really cold. So I really want to talk to you about this cold exposure, and we're going to take our second break. When we come back, we're going to hear all about the exposure, the cold exposure program, how people can get started on it, why they would get started on it, all the benefits of it. So don't go anywhere. We are going to be right back with Besh. You're listening to the Inspired Choices Network. This is Financially Speaking, and I am your host, Kathy Cook-Noble. We'll be right back.
Too many of us get caught up in the unreal lives of reality television and complete to acquire stuff, which is setting us up to accumulate lots of debt. We're scared, confused, and don't know who to talk to. By tuning into Financially Speaking radio show with financial advisor and educator Kathy Cook-Noble, you'll learn tips you can use to improve your financial health, which in turn can improve your overall health and make for a very happy life. Live a life you can afford and enjoy. It is possible. Listen for Financially Speaking radio show every Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 3 p.m. Central, 2 p.m. Mountain, and 1 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. Money is complicated, right? Actually, no, it's not. You don't have to be a trader on Wall Street to get a handle on your money. TV shows often instill fear to keep you believing you can't understand it or do anything yourself. If dealing with your finances brings up a lot of other F words, then you need to read All Ladies Should Use the F Word, A Guide to Loving Your Finances by Kathy Cook-Noble. Kathy helps you take control of your finances and leave the other F word, fear, in the dust. This is the Financially Speaking Show with financial advisor and educator Kathy Cook-Noble. To participate in the program, join our live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email by sending to Kathy@bookkeepplus.ca. Now back to the program.
Welcome back, everyone. You are listening to Financially Speaking on the Inspired Choices Network. And we have a special guest with us tonight. And Besh has been talking about his experiences, not just in the military, but in entrepreneurship. And he does something very, very cool that he's also an expert on, and that is the extreme cold exposure. And I have to tell you, I find it very fascinating. I much prefer the cold. And I know people around the world think Canada has snow all the time, and it really doesn't. It gets very, very hot in the summer. I prefer the cold. And the closest I think I've ever gotten to the polar bear dip is I just turn the water down and have at the end of my shower have it really cold. So I'm really fascinated to hear how the cold exposure, how it actually works as a program, because it is a legitimate program, how you got involved in it and obviously became an instructor and expert on it, and how often you are exposing yourself to the cold temperatures and how you do it. So you have to share a little bit, please.
Great question, Kathy. So when I was in the military for the first 6 years, I was in the infantry, but here in the Great White North, we're Arctic soldiers. So winter training, winter warfare was an annual thing. And then I became a Navy bomb disposal diver because I thought the infantry was cold and wet. So I became a Navy diver, and then it was colder and wetter. So for basically 24 years, I've been a professional hypothermic. We've done work under destroyers where we're moving propellers, and we're in the water for 6 hours. Right. So, I've been cold a lot, most of my military career. So when I got out, a friend of mine gave me Alexander Graham Bell's biography, and in which he's a Scottish man, no bell phones. He invented the telephone, in case you didn't know. And but he'd go up to the Bredor Lakes in Nova Scotia, Cape Breton, and he'd be out in the winter shoveling in just his muscle shirt, carpe diem. And so I just started, when I got out of the military, I still kept doing it, but I still kept freezing. But in the October of 2015, I saw a Dutch man from the Netherlands called the Iceman, and because he can, anyone can. And so what he's done, Whim Hof is what his name is, and he's discovered this method of mindset, breathwork, and cold exposure that helps improve our immune system. Okay, and so I saw that in October 2015, and I went out into my pond, and we already had a thin layer of ice, and so I just broke it with my broomstick and just stood in the icy pond with my bare feet, and it felt like my feet were on fire. And there's no way, because he swam 66 meters under a meter of ice on one breath. He's been into the death zone of Everest with just his shorts and crampons. He did a full marathon running above the Arctic Circle in Norway in just shorts and his flip-flops, where it was -16, where the experts said he would be dead, or froze stiff in 20 minutes. The man ran for 5.5 hours. He can sustain his body temperature in ice cold baths up to 3 hours. So there's something to it. So I just kept following this and taking it up. Serendipitously, we were on holidays, and Whim Hof was in Toronto the same weekend. We were an hour north in Barrie, Ontario. So I went down and did a one-day workshop. I met the second Whim Hof instructor, Steve Beatty. We became friends and stayed in touch. He went off to Amsterdam and Poland to become an instructor. I said, how was it? He goes, life-changing. I then followed in his footsteps and went to Amsterdam and Poland to become an instructor. I met 49 on course. There's 50 of us. I met 49 other me's. It was so inspiring. We're the most inspiring group of people I've ever been with. So I just kept at it, but then I committed to the techniques, I committed to the breath work and the cold exposure, and now my blood work shows the evidence of that, right? So what it is again, the mindset to know that the science works, and what the breath work and the cold exposure does. And we know, regardless of what's going on with the COVID, the biggest disease going on in our world right now is cardiovascular disease. Arterial sclerosis, things like that kills 6-7 million people annually. So that's a real big issue. So what happens with the breath work and the cold exposure is it reduces inflammation in the body. And we understand that inflammation is the root result of disease. Like when you get a sliver, you get inflammation and the white blood cells attack that, right? Same thing in the body. If we've got disease, either mentally or physically, we're going to create inflammation in the body. That's why when we get our blood tests, we know if we have issues going on. So again, Whim Hof, if you go to wimhofmethod.com, you'll see that he has 3 free courses on the breath work and the gradual cold exposure. And now you don't need to be, I'm a bit more adventurous than your average person. Again, due to my military background, I've got more of a joie de vivre and let's get at it. And So I now commit to a daily practice of going in the pond, and you only need 18 degrees to start the cold exposure. And so when we do the breath work, because again, inflammation's in the body, what we want to do is reduce that, right? And rebalance our hormonal systems. What happens is in our Western world, we're being subjected to bells, dings, and whistles. This creates a little adrenaline response. But if we get this on a daily basis and we're under stresses, we're creating deregulation of our hormones, things that will create things like adrenal fatigue, autoimmune issues like fibromyalgia, lupus, Lyme's, Crohn's, Addison's, Raynaud's, Hashimoto's, obesity, diabetes, and COPD are issues from lifestyle choices and habits or environmental exposure. So what we have an ability to interrupt that. So that chronic stress on a daily basis is creating our deregulation. What we do is when we do a yoga breath, it's like long and slow, and we're just decelerating our body, right? Decompressing. What we do with the Whim Hof method, it's completely the opposite. We're breathing controlled focus and induced hard enough and fast enough to create the fight-flight response. This releases fresh adrenaline to the body. This adrenaline suppresses inflammation in the body. It also, through the breath work, we change our pH levels, raising our alkalinity, lowering our acidity. This deactivates pain receptors in the body. We're oxygenating, reducing CO2 in the body. This all helps deactivate pain in our body. My buddy is a paratrooper in the military, and he had an accident where someone came underneath him and took his air, and he fell 85 feet. He'd been on opioids for the last 20 years. And I told him about the method. And so he went and did the online guided breath. And he goes, Besh, after one round of 30 breaths, I had 85% more mobility in my neck and no pain. And he'd been taking opioids and stuff for 20 years. Nothing really worked. This, just through his own commitment, he did that.
So can I ask you then, is this one of the big contributors that you would say helps you to stay strong and healthy, especially in these times? Because it's easy for people joke about, gaining weight in COVID, but the reality is because they're sitting binging on Netflix, right? And all the other streaming mechanisms. So is this one of your secrets to success, if you will, on how do you stay strong and healthy?
Absolutely. It gives me daily focus. It snaps me out of whatever trance I was in, and now I've got the breath work. So now I'm even more committed to, the blood work. I've got the blood work from my doctor. So I'm even more committed to the exercise of it. And those that I share it with now, love it. And again, you don't need to be a freak like me, but you can just, after your hot shower, just turn off your hot water and get a few seconds of cold water. You only need 2 minutes to really activate the body's response system. And if you go to WimHofMethod.com, he's got a 20-day cold shower challenge, which you do like 10 seconds on the first day, 15, 20, and you just build up. And all we're really doing, the biological superpower in this of it, is that we're conditioning our heart to be able to pump blood to our extremities under the shock of the cold. Because the cold is a noble, righteous teacher, as we learned, but it's an immortal state. So when you're in the icy pond, I just did 30 minutes this year, but it's taken me time to get conditioned to that, to adapt to it. What we're doing is adapting our body's ability to respond. Like if we look at our Innu friends or farmers and fishermen, they work year round in the environment, and you can see them handling ropes and that they're used to it. And that's all it is getting used to taking it in the face first before life dishes it out to us, right?
Yeah. And the beauty of it is there's a lot of healing power to it. And I'm not going to simplify it and say you do that and we can cure things like COVID, but it certainly isn't going to hurt. And I think with what you've said, and just not just even what you said, just the proof of all you're living it is that it does have a serious impact on your body in a good way. And I encourage everyone to try. I have done the shower. I do that and I turn it down. I am nowhere near your level. I couldn't do 30 minutes, let alone 3. So I will work on that. Right on. I'll get better for sure. We're going to take our last break of the night. And when we come back, I want to talk to Besh a little bit about a little bit more about healing ourselves and our immunity, but I want to know how he can help us and how he recommends we create the greatest social change in our life, because it all starts with us. And I think that, Besh, you're a testament to that. So don't go anywhere. We are with Besh for a few more minutes for the show. You're listening to Financially Speaking on the Inspired Choices Network, and we'll be right back.
Too many of us get caught up in the unreal lives of reality television and complete to acquire stuff, which is setting us up to accumulate lots of debt. We're scared, confused, and don't know who to talk to. By tuning into Financially Speaking radio show with financial advisor and educator Kathy Cook Noble, you'll learn tips you can use to improve your financial health, which in turn can improve your overall health and make for a very happy life. Live a life you can afford and enjoy. It is possible. Listen for Financially Speaking radio show every Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 3 p.m. Central, 2 p.m. Mountain, and 1 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. This is the Financially Speaking Show with financial advisor and educator Kathy Cook Noble. To participate in the program, join our live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email by sending to Kathy@bookkeepplus.ca. Now back to the program.
Welcome back, everyone. You are listening to Financially Speaking on the Inspired Choices Network. I am your host, Kathy Cook Noble, and we have had one of the coolest guests. We've got Besh with us tonight, Brent Beshara, and he's been sharing some very great insight on how to live a better life, how he has experienced it. And I have to tell you, I find it so refreshing, not to, no pun intended, because we were just talking about the cold exposure, but I find it so refreshing because there's so many people out there giving messages without the experience to back it up. And I find that, quite frankly, in finance a lot. There's a lot of people who are financial wizards that have no experience and have never done it, and no training, and I see people get into more trouble with it. So it's very, very, very exciting for me to have somebody like you who've experienced it, who lives it, and is willing to share it with people. So we have a few minutes left in the show, and how would you say we as individuals can have the greatest impact on social change in our lives, and what you recommend for a path for all of us?
Great question, Kathy. Again, when we heal ourselves, we heal the world. And, I figured out that there's two wheels in life. There's a survival wheel, and then there's an inspiration wheel. When we're on the survival wheel, it's tough to be creative on the creative wheel. So we got to start with ourselves. That the real social change, like I always say, that to make the greatest possible social change in the world is simply be the best version of yourself. It's the most amazing thing. So that when we become, for me, it's 4 E's: education, which leads to enthusiasm, which creates empathy. So when we have education, it reaches empowerment, which gives us empathy. And so when we find that when we heal ourselves, we do heal those around us as well. So again, it's a commitment of be still and know ourselves. So by a commitment to, again, believe it or not, just meditation, by sitting still. And if we don't have the luxury of a lifestyle in which to do it, then what we need to do is just carve out those 5 minutes before we start our day, right? Or sometime during the day, just to sit still and breathe into the fact that in this very moment, everything is all right, everything is okay, that it is going to work out, because actually things always seem to kind of work out.
Yeah, they do.
And so that, and committing to a bit to exercise, just eating better, getting our sleep, our vitamins B, C, and D. When we just, again, it's little steps, just putting those little blocks in a row, that we find that we do get the results of that. Again, when we, like Whim says, is when we give our best, we get our best. To feel is to understand, but to do is to know. And if we're upset with the situation we're in, it's because that's the choices that we've made in our life. Life comes down to basically our choices and our accountabilities. And so when we make, like my mom always says, make great choices. So when I do make those great choices, I do get the bona fide results of those choices in my life. And I got to say about Financially Speaking is that we had a financial coach back when we just prior to moving here to Newfoundland, and we thought we could never ever afford it. But then through the tips and the tricks, not always buying coffees, don't use your bank, only use your bank card at the bank machine of your bank, kind of things like this, these little fees. So once we committed to those little financially steps, it was in a relatively short period of time. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. It's incredible. It's like, I mean, one of my favorite things is compound interest, and people don't realize how quickly it makes a change. Like change is little by little. And I tell people your finances is like gaining or losing weight. It didn't happen overnight. So you're not going to do it overnight to get in or out of trouble that you might find yourself in. So I think it's incredible. And I've said so many times on the show, which I think is awesome that you just said it. I don't think it's not about the money. And I tell people there's lots of money out there. There's tons of money out there. You can have as much as you want. It's just how much you desire or attract to you. But I find that if everybody had a financial stability and they weren't stressing about it, that would improve their health and it would improve their relationships. It would improve their community. I think it would improve the entire world. And I say, I don't mean to simplify it, but there's so much focus on money, and money is just a inanimate object that has no feelings for me at all. It doesn't sit out there and think, oh, I wish Kathy would, come and get me, or I wish Kathy would spend me. And there's nothing at all that money feels. It will go to you, it'll go to me, it'll go to somebody else, good, bad, or ugly, that desires it more. So just with you saying that about us being our best version of ourselves, I think that is exactly, and as soon as you do, if you follow your program and we live the life that you're living and recommending, then the money will follow. Or it's about the mindset, and I think it's just awesome actually to hear how you do it.
And it's a commitment, but that's it. Again, the adage is, if it is to be, it's up to me, because it can only be. So that's when we step up to our own plate, we do get the results in our life. And because when I've gone downtown with a chip on my shoulder, I've met equal and opposite people with their chips. But when I've gone downtown with a glint in my eye and a skip in my step, I meet other people with glints in their eyes and skips in their steps.
So I have 2 minutes left, and I have to ask you 2 questions. One is, what's the first step you think people should take? And the second is, I know you live this life, and I know you share this life, but do you do this for other people? Can they contact you? Is this a part of your business practice, if you will?
Yeah, for sure. I do run workshops. Sorry, what was that first question?
What's the first step?
First step.
First step?
Believe it or not, it's the simplest thing is to just sit still and know yourself. When we sit down, we understand the mechanism of our perception, the coding, the programming that we've learned from our parents, our siblings, our society. When we see that coding, we can then say, right, is this working for me? Is this perspective, attitude really working for me? Then we can diagnose ourselves and heal ourselves in that way. Commitment to exercise, commitment to eating, and that's it. And that's the title of my first book. It's so simple. Warning: there might be a little bit of work involved. But once we commit to that path, then that path is assured, right? And your second question, sorry?
With your workshops, how are they able to get a hold of you? I'm assuming you're doing the workshops through the pandemic, because I know you're
actually with the pandemic and our closures and bubbles, I actually haven't been running any workshops during this time until we get back to our bubbles opening up.
Okay.
And then you can either contact me on Facebook, my name, but also I've started a Newfoundland Winter Tribe where we post all of our winter activities, taking winter in the face. And then also my website, besh.ca. You can contact me there. There's a contact page.
Perfect. And when are you, I know it's hard to say because nobody has a crystal ball, but when are you expecting to have workshops start back up? And because you would do them live, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Live in person. Yeah. And I take everyone through the mindset, talk about the science. We do some breath work, and then because again, to do is to know, but to feel is to understand. When you feel the effects, when you give your best, you get your best, you get the results. And then we go to the pond and do the cold exposure. And everyone's always so excited. Oh my gosh, I did 2 minutes in the pond. How easy was that? And how refreshed and invigorated and how sparkly the skin is after that stuff. So again, it completely, you just see the look on people's faces, and then those that are inspired continue to do it. And friends of mine, that is, just they love it, they get the benefits, and they share that with others, and the selfie looks amazing.
Awesome. Besh, thank you so much. I have 5 seconds left to say thank you. Come back anytime. You and your beautiful wife are welcome anytime to come back together or separately. And we'll
Thank
talk
you,
to you
Kathy.
soon.
Thank you for choosing to listen to Financially Speaking Radio Show. Kathy Cook Noble will return next Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 3 p.m. Central, 2 p.m. Mountain, and 1 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. We hope you'll join us. Until then, have the best week of your life by making the choices that bring you all that you desire.